I've signed billion-dollar deals on yachts in Monaco, given keynote speeches in New York, and been on magazine covers I once used to dream about when I had nothing but a cardboard mattress and a backpack full of rejections. People see the polished version of me now. Alexander Hale, CEO of Haletech Industries, the youngest billionaire in the city's history. They see the tailored suits, the security detail, the glass towers with my name embossed in chrome. But no one ever sees the child inside me who still walks alone past the old orphanage I grew up in, wondering if anyone ever truly wanted him. That morning, I wasn't thinking about the past. I was thinking about the Valentech merger, a $3.4 billion deal that would redefine the global AI landscape. It was set to finalize within the hour, and I was heading into the last board meeting before the contract signatures. The final documents were in my hand-bound, thick, and worth more than some countries' GDP. I was striding through the business district, sharp blue suit, Bluetooth in my ear, assistant talking on the line when a sudden gust of wind caught me off guard. "Sir, I'll call the car around to the east lobby." "Make it quick," I said, gripping the file, but it was too late. The papers slipped from my grasp like feathers breaking free of a bird's wings. Legal sheets, signed authorizations, one even with an original handwritten note from our board chair. They danced and scattered across the sidewalk. Cursing under my breath, I knelt down to grab them. But then a pair of small hands beat me to it. I looked up, and there she was. A little girl, maybe 5 years old, crouching beside me with the kind of carefree energy that only a child could possess. Her hair was tied into 2 playful ponytails. She wore a white t-shirt beneath denim overalls, her tiny white sneakers scuffing the pavement as she gathered pages with a proud smile. "Here you go, mister," she chirped, holding up a crumpled legal page with the innocence of 1,000 sunrises. "Thanks," I murmured, still slightly stunned. She went about collecting more, like it was her personal mission. And then, as she leaned forward again, a glint of something gold caught my eye. I froze. On her delicate wrist dangled a bracelet. Not a plastic toy, not a cheap trinket, but a handmade, antique chain with 3 tiny charms, a faded locket, a miniature rose, and a curved letter E. My breath caught in my throat. I knew that bracelet. I knew it too well. Years ago, when I was just a lost teenager in foster care, my birth mother had left me with one thing, a bracelet, that exact one. A family heirloom, she'd said through tears, the only thing she could pass on. I'd carried it for years, through shelters and soup kitchens, keeping it like a sacred relic until one day out of desperation, I gave it to her. To Elena, the only woman I had ever truly loved before my rise to fortune. The little girl looked up and smiled again. "My mom gave it to me," she said casually. "She said it was from my dad." I felt the ground tilt beneath me. Double quotes where ... "Where did you get that bracelet?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She glanced down at it innocently and shrugged. "From Mommy. She gave it to me last year for my birthday." My chest constricted. I wasn't just confused, I was spiraling. That bracelet shouldn't exist anymore. It was too unique, too personal, too connected to a life I thought I had buried beneath years of ambition and acquisitions. "What's your name?" I asked gently. "Lila," she answered. Lila. Something about that name felt familiar. My mind was racing. "Is your mom nearby?" I asked. She pointed toward the corner cafe across the street. "She's waiting for me." "I'm not supposed to talk to strangers, but you looked like you needed help." My throat tightened. I looked across the street and saw a silhouette sitting at a table, her back to me. Long hair, graceful posture, a paper cup in her hand. From this distance, I couldn't be sure, but my gut told me I knew that figure. Could it really be her? "Thank you for your help, Lila," I said, doing my best to smile. Do you mind if I meet your mom? She tilted her head innocently. You can try, but she doesn't like talking to strangers either. I laughed lightly, but inside, I was all ready. Unraveling Dot as she skipped across the crosswalk toward the cafe, I followed at a cautious distance. My phone buzzed in my pocket, the assistant asking where I was, the merger meeting waiting, the future hanging in the balance, but I ignored it. For once, business could wait, because in that moment, I wasn't a CEO. I wasn't a billionaire. I was a man chasing a ghost from his past, carrying nothing but a memory on a tiny wrist. I stood across the street, motionless, my heartbeat a slow, thunderous drum in my ears. The morning sun gleamed off the glass buildings behind her, but my eyes were locked on the woman seated at the outdoor table of that little cafe. She was half turned, sipping something from a paper cup, her long hair falling across her shoulder in soft waves. Even from behind, my soul recognized her. Elena. Time hadn't erased her from me. It had only sharpened her outline. I'd spent years convincing myself she was just a chapter in a book I'd closed. But the truth was, she was the page I had. Dog-eared and never turned again. Lila ran up to her and showed her the gathered papers, laughing. Elena looked up with a familiar smile, that same radiant curve of lips I once knew better than my own breath. She tousled the little girl's hair and leaned down to kiss her forehead. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Then, slowly, her gaze lifted. Our eyes met. Her entire body stiffened. The smile vanished. Her lips parted in shock, and for a moment, I saw the same disbelief reflected in her that I felt in myself. She stood up abruptly. Knocking over her coffee, Lila turned around and waved, calling out, "He's the man I helped." He said hi. Elena looked at her, then at me again, and something flickered in her eyes, fear, perhaps, or regret. I crossed the street slowly, hands slightly raised, like approaching a scared animal. "Elena," I said softly, my voice cracking. She shook her head slightly. "Alex, what are you doing here?" I didn't know you were back in the city," I said, trying to collect my thoughts. "I had no idea." "I wasn't supposed to be here," she replied. Her voice was guarded, cautious. "It's just a quick trip, nothing more." I turned toward Lila, who was now sitting and happily sipping juice. She helped me pick up my papers. And then I saw the bracelet. Elena's eyes went to her daughter's wrist, and she closed them briefly. "I should have taken it off this morning," she whispered. My throat burned. "Elena, is she?" I didn't finish the question. "I couldn't." She looked away. "Elena? Is she mine?" She bit her bottom lip, and for the first time, I saw the pain swimming just beneath the surface. "She's yours." "Alex," she said finally, her voice nearly a whisper. "She's your daughter." Time stopped. The street noise faded. My phone in my pocket buzzed, rang, then fell silent again. All I could hear was that one truth echoing inside me. "She's your daughter." I sat down slowly, my legs no longer able to carry the weight of the moment. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, not with anger, but with pure disbelief. Elena sighed, brushing her fingers across her forehead. "I tried," she said. "Twice, but both times you were gone. You had changed numbers, moved cities, hired a fortress of people around you, and by then, I didn't want to be seen as someone chasing your money. You think I care about that?" I asked. "You think I would have turned away from you?" She gave me a sad smile. I didn't know. And honestly, I wasn't even sure I wanted to bring a child into a world where her father's face was on billboards, where his schedule didn't belong to him anymore. I stared at Lila, who was now quietly humming to herself. "She looks like you," I murmured. "She acts like you," Elena replied softly. "Stubborn, inquisitive, always trying to fix things." I couldn't believe it. For years I'd measured success in market share and innovation, I had amassed fortune, prestige, influence. But I had missed this. I had a daughter, and I had never been there for her first steps, her first words, her scraped knees, or bedtime stories. I looked at Elena again. Why now? Why bring her here? She hesitated. She asked about her father, said she felt like a piece of her life was missing. So I brought her here to show her where her dad's company is. I thought maybe seeing your building would be enough. I let that sink in. My building, glass and steel, 22 floors tall, hailed as an architectural marvel, was supposed to be enough to fill the void inside a little girl. I never knew I had. I felt sick to my stomach. I need to know her, I said finally. I need to make this right. Elena looked down. I don't want her hurt, Alex. She's everything to me. And now I know she's everything to me too, I said firmly. I don't want to cause chaos, but I want to be in her life. Please. She studied my face. It was the same look she'd given me all those years ago when I told her I was leaving town to chase my dreams, that last night, when I handed her the bracelet and promised I'd come back for her. She'd waited. And I never did. Now I understood the weight of that betrayal. I'll think about it, she said finally. She doesn't know the full story. She just knows you're someone special. Tears welled up in my eyes. Will you let me see her again? I asked. Elena nodded. Tomorrow. Same place. As they stood to leave, Lila ran over and hugged my legs. Bye, Mr. Man, you're really nice, and you have shiny shoes. I smiled, blinking back tears. Thank you, Lila, you're really amazing. She giggled and skipped away, Bracelet shimmering in the sunlight. I stood there long after they disappeared down the street. My phone buzzed again. My assistant's voice came through. Mr. Hawley? We lost the Valentech meeting. They postponed everything. Do you want to reschedule? I looked toward where they had gone, then at the sky above me. No, I said quietly. Let it wait. Because for once, the billionaire in me had to make way for something greater. A father and a second chance. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling of my penthouse, the city lights flickering through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Below me, millions of lives pulsed with routine, ambition, and chaos. But in my world, where I used to control, every detail something had unraveled that no merger, no money, no executive strategy could fix. I had a daughter, Lila. 5 years of her life had passed, and I had missed every single moment. Her birth, her first laugh, her first steps. Her first word. Had it been Mama? Could it have been Dada? I'd never know. I rose at dawn, skipped my usual routines, and canceled all meetings. For once, my schedule didn't belong to my calendar or to a boardroom. It belonged to the questions clawing at my soul. At exactly 10 a.m., I returned to the caf. They were already there. Layla sat cross-legged on the chair, swinging her legs, a juice box in one hand and a chocolate chip cookie in the other. Elena wore a soft blue cardigan, and though her hair was tied in a loose bun, she still carried the elegance I remembered. When she saw me, she smiled, but there was caution behind her eyes. I understood. I deserved it. I approached the table slowly. Lila's eyes lit up. It's shiny shoes, man, I chuckled. Good memory. Elena stood, pulled out a chair for me. Glad you came. I wouldn't miss it, I said. We sat. Silence hung for a few seconds, but it wasn't awkward. It was thick with everything unspoken. Years of it. She's been excited to see you, Elena said. She didn't stop talking about you last night. My heart swelled. Hi, Lila, I said, turning to her. I was hoping you'd be here. She tilted her head. Did you bring more papers to drop? I laughed. Not today. But maybe next time. Elena let her daughter talk. About cartoons. About her favorite color, purple. About how she once saw a pigeon steal someone's sandwich. I listened intently, drinking in every word like a man dehydrated from a lifetime in a desert. Then came the hard part. After Lila skipped inside to use the restroom, I looked at Elena. I need to understand everything. She nodded. I found out I was pregnant a month after you left, she began. You just landed your first investor meeting. You were so full of fire, ambition, hope. I didn't want to be the anchor that slowed your flight. I frowned. You would never have been an anchor. I didn't know that then, she said, voice trembling. You were unreachable for weeks. Then I heard you'd moved to Silicon Valley. Changed numbers. You were rising fast, I thought. Maybe it was better to let you go. Why didn't you write me? I asked. I did. Twice. Both letters came back unopened. Returned to sender, she shrugged. Eventually, I stopped trying. My stomach turned. I had changed everything in my life to escape the chaos. New address, new assistant, new company name. And in doing so, I had erased the only person who mattered. I never meant to leave you behind, I whispered. Not you, not her. Alona's eyes filled. I believe you. We sat in silence again. She's brilliant, I said. You've done a beautiful job. She's everything I had, she replied. I worked nights, cleaned offices, took freelance design gigs. There were days I didn't eat so she could. My throat tightened. Billionaire, jet setter, visionary. Yet this woman had fought battles I couldn't imagine. I want to be part of her life, I said. Whatever that looks like. I don't want to rip her world apart. But I can't walk. Away again, she nodded slowly. Then take it slow. One day at a time. She doesn't know the whole truth yet. I wanted to wait until I knew. Until I could trust you with it. I'm here. I'm not running this time. When Lila came back, I asked her, do you like stories? Her eyes lit up. I love stories. I leaned closer. Can I tell you one sometime? Maybe. A story about a brave little girl and a man who didn't know he'd lost the most magical treasure in the world. She blinked, then smiled. Only if there's a happy ending. I'll do my best. We spent the next hour walking through the park nearby. I bought her ice cream. She told me she wanted to be an astronaut and a painter. When they were about to leave, she reached for my hand. I froze. Her tiny fingers wrapped around mine. Bracelet glinting in the sun. Buy shiny shoes, man, she said. Come again soon. Okay? I swallowed hard. I will. After they left, I stood alone in the park, hands still tingling. The empire I had built now felt empty unless it echoed with her laughter. And for the first time in years, I felt a dream form in my heart. That wasn't tied to profit margins. I walked away slowly, with one mission clear, to be the kind of man she'd be proud to call Dad. They say success is measured by what you build. I used to believe that for years. I measured everything by what I could acquire, the number of buildings bearing my name, the reach of my technologies, the net worth on the cover of financial magazines. I spent my life conquering industries, one sleepless night, one deal at a time. But all of that changed the moment a little girl picked up my papers and wrapped her tiny fingers around my heart. Weeks passed, and, slowly, carefully, I became part of Layla's world. It started with short visits, walks in the park, cookies and silly games, bedtime story voice notes I'd send every night. She'd giggle at the funny voices I did and ask for another. Then came the drawings she made for May, crayon portraits of me and her, both wearing suits. She even drew a tiny version of the bracelet around her wrist. Alina watched everything quietly, protectively. She was cautious, rightfully so, but kind. We built a rhythm. Not just co-parenting, but healing. One evening, as the city bathed in golden hour light, Lila asked me, "Why don't I see you every day?" I knelt beside her. "Because I've been learning how to be someone worth seeing every day." She tilted her head. curious. Like a dad? I blinked back tears. Yes, I said. Exactly like a dad. She smiled and hugged me. That night, I couldn't sleep again, but for a different reason. My mind wasn't chasing deadlines or market gaps. It was planning something I never thought I'd do, changing my legacy. The next day, I called a full board meeting of Halle Tech. They expected a product launch. Instead, I told them this. We've built machines that understand language, engines that calculate risk, platforms that predict behavior, but now we'll build something else. Possibility. Starting today, I'm establishing a new wing of Halle Tech focused on child-focused innovation, education, and creative tools. And it will be named after my daughter Lila's light, because the brightest futures sometimes come from the smallest hands. The boardroom was silent. Then, one by one, they clapped. Some even wiped their eyes. In the weeks that followed, I launched a foundation. I funneled millions into early education for single-parent children, funding everything from school tech kits to mother and child housing programs. Lila's Light became more than a division, it became a movement. And the day we launched it publicly, I did something I never thought I'd have the courage to do. I brought Lila on stage with me. Hundreds of guests, investors, reporters, everyone had gathered in our company's main auditorium. My usual stage presence, calm and commanding, was replaced by a kind of nervous energy I hadn't felt in years. Lila stood next to me, holding my hand, wearing a little blazer and sparkly shoes. I bent down and whispered, "You ready, partner?" She nodded. "Can I tell them my idea for drawing robots?" I smiled. "Absolutely." I introduced her to the world not as a mascot, not as a cute PR moment, but as a co-founder and spirit of what our company would become. And then I shared the full truth with the world. I spent my life thinking legacy meant wealth. But it doesn't. It means connection. It means showing up. It means being there. This little girl found me when I was too busy chasing the world and reminded me of what I left behind. She's my daughter. And today, I honor the bracelet on her wrist, the one my mother gave to me, which I gave to someone I loved, which now rests with the greatest gift I never expected. This isn't just my company anymore. It's ours. The crowd stood. People applauded. But all I could focus on was Lila smiling up at me with pride in her eyes. After the event, Elena approached me quietly, her eyes shimmering. "She adores you," she said. I nodded, voice thick with emotion. "I adore her too, and I never want to miss another day." She took my hand. "Neither do I." A few months later, we walked together, Elena, Lila, and I, through a quiet museum where one of our foundation's tech exhibits had just opened. Lila raced ahead, chasing her reflection in the polished floors. Elena turned to me and whispered, "Do you still feel like the orphan you once were?" I thought about it. About that boy who used to stare through fences, wondering if anyone would ever love him. I looked at Lila, then at Elena. "No," I said. "Now I feel like someone finally found me." People often ask, "What's the most valuable thing you've ever built?" They expect me to name an app, a tech company, or a stock surge. But I don't. I just smile and say, a home. Because in the end, all it took was one little girl, one bracelet, and one moment to change everything.